Welcome to part 2 in this series. I'm going to go through the STQs, how I send the effects back and forward, how I use the headphones. So we're going to get into that, and also I've got some tracks coming from the door through the desk, and we're going to imagine that we've got a vocalist coming round and we're setting it up. I'm Alex Biggs, this is Soundbase Studios. Let's get into it. What I'm going to do is firstly show you what I've done in the door, and then we'll have a look at the desk. I've got some stems coming back, and I've got a master in and out which I'll be recording so you hear what I hear, and then we've got some effects. So similar into part 1, what I've done is I've added an effects track by going add track, add effects track. If I click into it, we've got a reverb on it, and obviously you can adjust that reverb in the reverb or on the desk. And here I've got another one which I've labelled up Vox effects for vocals. So if we look in that one, we've got a reverb effect, but it might be, which I normally do, you might just want the vocals to have a bit of reverb, nothing else. Whereas here, I can put more reverb on any of the other instruments. I can set up delays, I can set up anything, you know, that can be sent to the desk. The flexibility is enormous. There's just no limit to what you can do. And by rights, there shouldn't be any delay or any latency, because I'm sending my actual tracks back through the desk. I'm sending the effects through the desk, so it all works together. So that means there's zero latency. I think I've got that right, so that should be it. It's only if you're recording in with instruments and then sending effects back that there might be a bit of latency. What I've got here is the mic. Now that is, again, as I said in the part 1, we're sending this to the vocal effect but not the other one, whereas the percussion, we're sending it to the other effect. So that gives me flexibility, which I'll show in the desk what you can do. And as I say, you can line up whatever you want going to wherever you want. So let's have a little look over at the desk. So I've kept all the buttons up so we can start, as I say, afresh with a fresh desk, as it were. So first of all, what I want to do, I'm using the ins and outs 15 and 16, so that needs to go down. My main needs to go down if I want to hear the speakers. So let's play a bit of the track so I can hear anything come through and put the headphones on. To hear the tracks come through, I need to push all of these buttons down because they're coming from the USB or from the door. Track 3 isn't, so that stays up. But the rest of the ones I put down, so I should be able to hear them now. Okay, and what you can do, you can see the levels come through. So what I've got here is my voice. I've got, let's have a look on the door. What have I got? I've got the drums. There's no bus in because I'm not recording anything, it's already done, so I don't need a bus, but I do need to send it somewhere, so it's going to tracks 5 and 6, so I want a stereo track. The bass synth, ideally it should be a stereo track, but it doesn't matter, it's only for reference, so I stuck it on track 4. And then percussion, we have 7 and 8, keys 9 and 10, and then the effects are on 11 and 12. So if we look at this one, again, this is this master, so you get to hear what I hear. So I'm just going to start the recording that. So again, that's in and out. The reason it's in and out, don't forget, is so that I can hear it back. Okay, let's talk a little bit more in detail about this USB out post fader. What happens is, the reason you need it pushed down again is because it taps the signal or stops the signal from going any further. It literally goes after the fader and then through the USB. If you have it up, although that actually doesn't affect the level now, the signal goes through the main bus. So if you have a look at this diagram here, you can see how they've sort of routed it. So your best option is probably to keep that down and just be careful about moving the fader, because watch, when I move the fader down, the voice gets quieter and then it goes back up. So it does obviously affect the fader because it's post after the fader. Now these won't work because you're bringing it from the USB, but the faders will work post or pre fader. So what we're going to do is bring up the bass, And there's your drums. Again, this is just a track I grabbed from one of my books. This isn't the whole track, it's just 4 stems. Okay, so now what I can do is bring in the reverb. So you can hear the reverbs coming in or going out, so you can mix it. Now, let's undo main so we don't hear it from the speakers. So now I'm putting it through the headphones, so I'll explain what I'm hearing through my headphones. So to get the headphones to work, what I need to do is, because I'm going to be using the STQs, I need these on. So what I need to do is I'm going to push all of these on, STQ 1 and 2. Now when I push STQ 2 down, I can hear from here. When I push STQ 1, I can hear from here. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility. So in theory, you could do 2 mixes. And this is why I say it's really good to have a headphone amp. It might be an idea to have a separate headphone just so you can check whatever artist, whether it's a guitar or a singer, in the whole mix, because whatever you're sending the artist obviously isn't going to be the whole track. So there is that as well. This one is obviously going to headphone 1, this is going to headphone 2. What I've done with the effects, the reason I've done the vocals, so if the vocalist just wants to hear a bit of reverb, what I will do is put down STQ1, and then when you talk into the mic, see, the faders won't work when you've got headphones on. So what you have to do is move these. So I'm on STQ, let's go back to 2, and then if I turn these, it means that I can't hear bass, I can't hear anything apart from what's in the reverb. So again, this is what you're sending to your headphones, this is your headphone volume. Right, so what I'm going to do, I want to perhaps just hear the keys. I don't want percussion, I don't want the bass, I just want some drums. So as a vocalist, I might want the reverb, so I can turn it up here. Now the problem is, it's making everything sound like reverb, so all I've got to do, what I've got here is obviously the reverb just on the vocal. So if I want a bit of reverb, then that comes in through my headphones. So turning that gives me the reverb. As I say, lots of flexibility in what you want to do on that. These 2 sections here are for the externals, and what that is, for example, I've got a music player or computer attached to this, so if the artist wanted to hear something and then I say, well look, here's the example, I can play something by pushing perhaps this down, and it will take from here into their headphone mix, and then they can get an idea. It might even be that they need to pitch off something, so you can push that down, send in the note that they need to pitch off, and then they're ready to go. So just remember that these externals you're bringing in to the headphones from this section here. I will go into that in greater detail in the next final part of the video series, which I'm doing with a compressor. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go over the Talkback function and how you can use it within your headphones. I'll try and record it as well so you can hear what's going on. Let's look in this Talkback section here. The things to remember, and this is obviously complicated, but if you try and think of it like, what have you got pushed down? Well, you've got STQ2. So what do you need for the headphones to work? STQ2. What do you need to record the Talkback or that input? STQ2. So you just got to make sure that everything is lined up. When you want to hear things, you can obviously bring up these and then you can hear them in your headphone. So to get the listen mic compressor working, obviously push it on. Dynamic is in there, so I don't need the 48 volts. The gain is here, so because it's dynamic, it's right up. So what we'll do, we'll play the track and then I'll talk. So I'll record the master as usual, and I'm going to record the Talkback. So you can hear the track is going. So if I've got this mic here. So now I can talk and say, do you want me to print the lyrics out? Well done. And if I don't want to talk, just switch it off. That's the Talkback feature, which comes in really useful. Glad you've been watching this far. Hope you've enjoyed it. And again, I'll get on to part 3, which is probably going to be what's left, I guess, which is the externals and the compressor. My name's Alex Biggs. I'm Soundbase Studios. Catch you next time. Take care.